guys
I've
playing
seen some of the places you hang out. You're one of the prime guests at the air host whenever you're in that vicinity of these United States.
I happen to have my own wing there.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, with
Nothing's too good for me.
Hot and cold running rats, right?
Let me see. You know, when you talk about air hosts and you talk about my lifestyle and everything, it brings a chuckle to my heart to think that you would try to insult me out here. Nothing's too good for me.
Try to insult you. We'll be back, wrestling fans. Plenty more action on our 100th anniversary coming up.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Welcome to Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd, and this week Professor Aubrey has decided to bow out because of her love of the topic at hand that we are discussing today. As you all know, if you're a longtime listener, she definitely humors me when I talk about this, and has actually attended a professional wrestling event at one time to humor me. But her wanting to do a whole episode about professional wrestling would be like me trying to do a whole episode on Pride and Prejudice. It just wasn't going to work. So she recommended her cousin. So we got all the way from...
Right here from Maryville, Tennessee, 865. Right now I'm in Fountain City in Knoxville, right where Bianca Belair is from and where Kane is the county mayor. So
I'm sure you all are proud.
Oh, well. Actually, I was going to tell you this when we came out there. We didn't get to see you all, but when Eric and I came out there last month, we saw Kane at the airport when we'd walk through security, and you're over there putting your shoes back on and stuff, and like I saw him because he was walking behind her, and I was like, oh my God, that's Kane. And he kind of looked at me, and then I locked eyes, and I was like, hey, Mr. Mayor, how's it going? And he just kind of nodded, and then as we were putting our shoes on, he comes over, he's like, how are you guys doing? You got a big trip planned? And we're like, yeah, I called you Mr. Mayor, so you had to come and be nice to me. But yeah, I don't know, whatever. So something else.
He is definitely quite the character, but Tennessee, of course, has a rich and vast history in the world of professional wrestling.
It truly does. Tennessee style league. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into our main topic this week, we're going to be talking about our our 5 favorite professional wrestling matches. First question I wanted to ask you is, what started your love of professional wrestling?
I can't really pinpoint a time frame. Aubrey and I's cousin John, a.k.a. Bucky, was big into it, so I just kind of absorbed some of that as a small child. I think I was about 8 years younger than he was. And then when I was in, 8th grade, freshman in high school, Nitro had started, NWO was taking off, and so, everybody was already, I was kind of peripherally aware of it anyway, but then that took off, and so I kind of got hooked and just been watching ever since. So
yeah, I get that feeling.
What about you?
I started about a decade earlier, and it was all due to the build up to WrestleMania 3.
Okay.
I remember, I don't know if it was like a wrestling challenge or a Superstars of Wrestling episode, but for whatever reason, there was this interview between Jimmy Hart and Mary Hart. Talking about being at WrestleMania 3 that initially piqued my interest. And then, of course, learning about Hulk Hogan. I became a huge Hulk Hogan fan for a while. A year later, I've talked about it on the show many times, when Andre and Hogan had the rematch on NBC in front of 33 million plus people.
The main event.
The main event, yeah. When Hogan was screwed out of that title, I reacted like I saw somebody shoot a family member in the face right in front of me, running out of the room, weeping. And then just in the late 80s too, was a great time to be a wrestling fan because in 1988, for example, every day, Monday through Friday after school on ESPN, they had a show called Legends of World Class.
Yeah.
which took all like the best moments of World Class Championship Wrestling. So I saw like the greatest hits of like the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds.
Sure.
Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair at the David Flair Memorial. The David Von Erich Memorial. Sorry. And of course Jim Crockett Promotions, which became WCW. Just a lot of great stuff out there, and just I've always been one for bombast. I'm not one for subtlety, and bombast in the world of professional wrestling, you can't get any better.
No, I'm with you. It was really like I watched the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling cartoon as a kid, and then I saw Macho Man on a Slim Jim commercial or something, and so I would ask Aubrey and I's cousin, I'd ask him about Macho Man all the time. I'd be like, "What's Macho Man doing?" Because that was kind of my guy. And then so. Yeah, man, it's good stuff. So, but I've gone back and watched all that stuff, a lot of old stuff. World Class seems like it was pretty fun territory. They had a ton of stars in the AWA, but Vern I don't know about all that stuff, man. So,
yeah, the AWA, I did catch some of that too.
I don't know what it is about like those centrally located places like Calgary and Minnesota where the promoters take it super seriously and act like they appear to. They're not aware that it's a work. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
because Bret Hart's always. I don't know if he's just keeping kayfabe all the time, but talking about getting back, I can't lose in Canada. That's ridiculous. So.
Well, in his defense, for the Bret Hart example, I mean, Shawn Michaels was not the easiest person to get along with, so I can understand why Bret would be a little hesitant. But, Vince should have had, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin face him at that Survivor Series.
Yeah.
And then, Shawn taking the title the next night or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, also when it comes to the cartoon, Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, do you know who played the voice of Hulk Hogan?
I saw this the other day, but you'll have to tell me.
Brad Garrett, who played Ray's brother on Everybody Loves Raymond. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, the Shredder.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But
that's cool.
Anyway,
cool.
Lots of. I instead of like going to college, I learned trivia like this, and look where it's at.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a trivia guy. I love it, man.
Yep. Well, like I mentioned, we both came up with 5 matches here that we consider our favorite, different than best. Sure. Everybody can have a favorite match and all that stuff. People want to argue about the silliest things, So if anything on our list is not something you at home agree with, that's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's the right answer here. But how about you dive in and tell us your first favorite match?
Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1 with mine, and I've got a little twist for mine. These are 5 matches that I've seen in person. I want to start with the Royal Rumble 2017. I saw Cena and Styles. I was there for that one because I want to see Cena tie Flair for that. And I was in a run right there. I went from the to the Rumble 16, 17, 18, 19.
Oh, man.
So I went 4 years in a row and saw some really cool stuff. So that was pretty cool, man. In the Alamo Dome and stuff, and it was a big crowd. So, and I didn't know, like, it was cool. Like I hadn't really been a huge fan of John Cena at that point, but I appreciated what he was doing. It had a lot of respect for. And AJ Styles was on top of his game at the time, so it was great stuff. So.
I can definitely imagine that. I did not see that one in person myself, but I've definitely seen John Cena live in the past on a couple of occasions. And, at that particular time, the way they were booking him, it was kind of weird because it was, they were still utilizing his star power, but it seemed like, his influence was definitely on the way down, I guess.
He'd been putting people over. He'd been putting Rollins and Reigns over in the previous couple of years. So
and it wasn't until just this past year once he's started going through his retirement tour that they decided to pull the trigger on making him a bad guy again.
I couldn't believe they did that. I couldn't believe that, man.
Oh, I was so happy when I saw that because he put the hug on Cody, and I'm like, oh no, they're not doing it. They're doing it. And that was definitely fun, but definitely fun too to see AJ Styles finally in the WWE. I mean,
Yeah.
in the 2000s. Go ahead.
For the record, I was there when he debuted at the Rumble the previous year, which was like
nice.
me. I had a crew. Me and my friends would get together every Monday night. We were a wrestling club that copied like the motorcycle club aesthetic, but we all flew down to the Rumble that year in Orlando because one of the brothers had moved down there, and so we all went to go visit. And like AJ debuted, and we are like, that was pretty. It was pretty cool. So I've been fortunate enough to see some pretty cool stuff there in like a 5-year run from like 15 to 20. So
the road to WrestleMania time is definitely the time to do it. But again, it was just so good to finally see AJ in the WWE and be able to be as for pardon the pun, be as impactful as he was, because the WWE does not have the greatest history of taking stars that were created in other organizations and letting them come over and do their thing.
Sure, and what's why I was referencing that to say, like, he'd only debuted the year before, and here he was a year later in the main event with John Cena, and he's the guy that helps Cena tie Ric Flair's what we thought was going to be an untouchable record. So, what about you? What's number 5 right here?
Well, I don't have a scientific listing for mine, so I'll just go with the first one here. But, speaking of Flair, I had to include a match I saw in 1988. It was counter-programming against WrestleMania 4, because this is around the time where Jim Crockett and Vince McMahon were kind of having a pissing contest as to who got time on pay-per-view, because apparently Vince McMahon the previous year in 87 created something called the Survivor Series and tried to keep Starrcade, I think it was Starrcade, off of a pay-per-view. And then early in January of 88, they had the Bunkhouse Stampede for WCW that they were going to do. So Vince McMahon went to the USA Network and says, I want to be able to create my own event. And the Royal Rumble was born, which I saw the Royal Rumble on TV, which was nice. But
that's wild.
You
saw the first one? That's cool, man.
On TV, even though apparently they were nervous about it because they had 2 practice Royal Rumbles at house shows, and those did not go well.
Really?
So they were nervous about it going off, but apparently just bringing it to TV was the secret sauce.
That's wild to me, because that's the most fun match I've ever, like, the Rumble's always the most fun to me. I look forward, that's my favorite match every year is the Rumble.
Yeah, even during the bad times, even during, I think it was the 95 Rumble, the one where the first time that Shawn Michaels entered at number 1, and everybody came in at the 1 minute mark. So it was a really fast Rumble, and then you had Mantar, of course. But it doesn't matter how bad the stories are, the Royal Rumble match is still fun to see.
Even in the lean years, there's always something, because you can bring somebody back, and you get like when Diesel came back, or Booker T came back, or RVD, or the Dudleys, and it's like, okay, well, this is fun. And we get to see them for a little bit, but we don't have to deal with them all the time. So that was fun.
Yep. Yeah, well, my first match here happened on a Jim Crockett Promotions card, because they wanted to counter program, and they came up with Clash of the Champions. And the match that I fell in love with, it was the first time that I really heard Jim Ross be Jim Ross, because him and Tony Schiavone were doing the call for that match. It was the Nature Boy Ric Flair with James J. Dillon in a shark cage above the ring, facing off against the youngster Sting.
Yeah.
And, knowing what I know now about that match, the fact that Sting was still relatively new in the business gives me not only appreciation for what he did in that match and then later in his career, but also for Ric Flair as well as a wrestler. Because if you pay attention, you can see they're kind of had a limited set of sequences that they were doing throughout that match, but just how they ended up executing those sequences just helped increase the tension in the audience, which was great. And it had a weird little time limit thing. It was usually championship matches would last an hour, but for whatever reason they had to go to the 45-minute mark. And just at the end of the match with Jim Ross screaming, and Sting in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Flair's like almost tapping out, but then didn't. And then they had to go to the judges, and it was funny too. I didn't even realize it at the time when I watched it, but they opened the match by introducing 5 judges, and then the announcer at the end of the match only gives the announcement that 3 of the judges gave. So 2 of the judges decision didn't end up mattering whatsoever. But this is the match that made Sting. I mean, he'd be the first to tell you that. And it was one hell. It was also different than what the WWF was doing at that time, because the WWF had a lot shorter matches. They weren't necessarily as focused on the in-ring product as at that time Jim Crockett Promotions, what became WCW, did. And I think this is probably one of the first time I was like at the TV like, come on, do it, and yelling at the TV. But it was great. But I'm sure you've seen that match.
I have
What are your thoughts?
So I had to go back. I went back and watched it on the network, or maybe one of the best of WCW or best of Sting DVDs or something like that. I didn't actually get to see a lot of Sting because I started watching like full time in like May of '96, like maybe 2 weeks before. I just remember Goldust tried to kiss Bulldog, and like it was around, so it was like spring of '96, and I kind of got hooked in. So I saw Sting for like 4 months before he became the Crow. So, but going back and watching, I was like, man, that guy's cool. He's like the Ultimate Warrior. If the Ultimate Warrior wasn't awful, like even as a kid, you knew he wasn't very good. Because you're like, yeah, he's cool and he just knocks the crap out of people. But he's not out there very long. So
no.
But no, Sting and Flair, I mean, that's a classic Flair match. It's up there with the Steamboat stuff. And I think one of the reasons that it helped make Sting the way it did is because that people cared about Ric Flair. That was a height of kind of some anti-Horseman sentiment, I think. From 86 to 86, 87, they were white hot in the Carolinas, right? So I think Sting being the guy to beat him, Sting being that guy who, he beat him, but they flared it. They Dusty type finish. I don't even remember the finish that match. It was a time limit draw, wasn't it?
Time limit draw, and then the judges
Flair won on the judges, right?
Yeah, it one of the judges of the 3 verdicts that they announced. One judge gave it to Flair, one for Sting, and one called it a draw. So they called it a draw.
So Flair retains. Yeah. And so, but we as the viewer know that Sting rightfully won that match and was kicking Flair's butt around the ring and all that stuff. So that's just great stuff.
Great stuff, but also too, what was fun was like watching the next World Championship Wrestling episode on the next Saturday, and seeing Flair do the perfect bad guy thing of kind of making people not even aware that he was like this close to losing the match. Just the bluster, and I mean, looking back on it now, like Ric Flair was always a master at the mic, even when he was getting you to hate him.
Oh yeah, he and Heenan as an adult, I have a lot more appreciation for than I did as a 7 or 8 year old kid who would occasionally watch. I always thought Ric Flair sounded like a pastor, hooting and a hollering. So,
I mean, a lot of those people, I'm sure, took some cues from people in the clergy. I mean, obviously, we got brother love from that.
Oh yeah, I love Bruce Prichard. I loved that show when he was doing it.
Well, how about you dive into your next choice here?
My next one is Roman Reigns, my tribal chief, and Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2022 in Nashville. In that no-holds-barred street fight, whatever. Brock drove the freaking tractor thing out there, and like there was vehicles, there was stuff getting dumped everywhere. Paul Heyman got the crap beat out of him. It was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun to be there because it's like, hey, this is not going to be Brett and Shawn. You know what I mean? This is not WrestleMania 12. This is just 2 big old comic book heroes and villains destroying stuff out here. It was just a lot of fun.
Oh, I remember that match too. I think it's one of the matches that is currently on the WWE YouTube channel, because they're having a countdown of the 25 best SummerSlam matches, and they're showing the entire match there. For old time wrestling fans, they're putting a lot of great stuff up on YouTube. So definitely check that out.
It was just a real gonzo match, you know.
I loved Brock, the smile on his face when he was driving that tractor.
Yeah.
Just like he was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
And, just lifting up the ring like he did. And Paul Heyman, like, what a
died.
genius.
He just died out there.
Yeah. Like, anytime he's out there, I love it. I mean, like, I was first introduced to him really in the, early WCW days. And I remember the Dangerous Alliance and, like, his ability to, get the best out of talent, or even to identify talent that other people aren't seeing, because, like, one of Paul Heyman's early manager spots was for a guy named Mean Mark Callis, who quickly left WCW and became the Undertaker. I mean, like oh man, what a genius, what a great match there.
Yeah.
When Brock drove the tractor out there, like, and you're in your seat, like, is that something you stand up for and you're cheering for?
Well, like you have the feeling, like, how many different times can those two just come down and have like a wrestling match fight? You know what I mean? Like, how many? So you knew, and they said this was going to be the last one, so you knew they were going to do something special. But when he came out with the tractor, it was like, boys, this is going to be a fun night tonight. Like, let's go, like, let's smash these beers. Let's have a good time here.
Yes.
And Brock jumping off the thing and like tipping his cowboy hat and stuff. Just Brock being a character and like just like a real badass baby face. You know what I mean? Like, it had some Austin quality to it. Like, that was one of the few guys that can pull off that same Austin gimmick. Like, yeah, he's out here goofing off, but when the bell rings, it's real serious. It's stomping time. So it was fun to see Brock in a different, other than just super killer mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of the secret sauce, even though, fans going into the show can understand that what they're watching is a story. The stories are predetermined in terms of who wins or not. I think the best professional wrestlers, even today, are the ones who make you think that there's some realness to it. And, Brock, despite his outside the ring, little things, it just was one of the best at it. And, hopefully, cross fingers, we'll get a chance to see him again in the ring at least one more time.
Yeah, very believable.
Indeed. We'll go on to my next match here in terms of believability here, and unique match here to say the least, but it happened at WrestleMania 7, and it was the Macho King Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
As you had mentioned earlier with the Ultimate Warrior, he was not the best in the ring. He just wasn't. Now, for a wrestler, that is not the end of the world, because there are, like, the Honky Tonk Man, for instance. I challenge anybody to name me a good honky tonk match. Honky tonk man match.
Is it short?
Well, there's that, yeah. But he didn't need to do that because of his character, and I think the Ultimate Warrior at that particular time was booked correctly. And when he had the right people to face, like Randy Savage in the ring, someone who could definitely kind of walk him along, the results speak for themselves. It's unfortunate that the Ultimate Warrior didn't have the mindset that Sting seemed to have in terms of trying to learn the business or just be a good human being, but
or at the very least be a good businessman, right? Like,
yeah.
No, we'd prefer them to be a good human being. Agreed. That's the baseline. But
because I get your point too. It's like one thing. It's one thing to believe in yourself, and everybody should believe in themselves and push for themselves and whatnot. But if you're believing in yourself so much that you want to put other people down, that's not good, But as far as this match goes, like, it was what was called at the time a retirement match.
Yep.
And nobody really knew what to expect, because everybody, saw that they were both still really in the prime of their careers. You know, they didn't know some of the behind the scenes things that were going on. I believe Macho Man at the time wanted some time off, so him and Elizabeth could potentially start a family, which did not happen. But the best part about this match, well, I should say the worst part about this match, is that you will notice one Mango Mussolini in the front row for the match. So if there are people that don't like seeing the President of the United States and stuff, the current President of the United States as we record this, that may be one to avoid. But the ending of the match, when the Macho Man loses and Sensational Sherry turns on him, and then Miss Elizabeth comes out from the crowd and tosses her out of the ring, and they have a reunion, and everybody in the crowd is crying and all that stuff. You know, it may seem silly for professional wrestling, but that's the beauty of it, when people get so invested emotionally in these characters that the emotions just come out, you know?
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. If I don't care what they're doing out there, I need to care about the character. Once I care about the character, you can do whatever you want out there because I care about what happens to him. And like, that's the thing. Macho, you know, he was getting back with Liz, right, on TV for that. And then they were going to get married. And then Flair she was mine before she was yours and all that stuff. Like, I got really invested into that as like a 13-year-old going back and watching those from a couple years prior. So,
you're even missing out on when it was at SummerSlam where the Macho Man and Liz redid their vows, and then
SummerSlam 91, right? And
I believe so, yeah.
And because I used to rent that videotape because it had the tape had like the post like the wedding reception with the cobra popping out of the thing.
Oh yeah, the whole Jake the Snake turning bad, and then that was the angle too that turned Undertaker into a good guy, because there was a Saturday Night's Main Event where like Jake the Snake was backstage with a chair, ready to hit Elizabeth with that chair. And then they ended the show. You didn't find out until Superstars that the Undertaker pulled the chair from Jake the Snake and whatnot. But that is also the beauty of pro wrestling when it's done well, when you do have those logical story beats happen. You know, like I could see that happening, you know, and how things turn together. But just one hell of a great match, and one I would say that kind of shows the emotions that can get that can come from the crowd too. Because, you know, again, they had shots of people crying, and that was legitimate.
That's
stuff.
real.
That wasn't.
That's real. While we're on Macho, real quick, Jay Lethal in TNA when he was Black Machismo. And there's a clip of him talking to Kevin Nash, and he just says, "Jake Roberts ruined my wedding." And I think that's just one of the, I don't know, for whatever reason, anytime Macho's wedding comes up, I got to throw that in. So, no, great stuff. It's a lot of those WrestleMania matches from the old ones, the big storytelling matches, are really worth going back to watch to see what, like you said, see it done right.
Indeed. Well, speaking of that, what's your next choice here?
I'm going to throw a WrestleMania match in. It was Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 32 in 2016. It's the first time that they'd been on the card after the Women's Revolution had started the previous year. The Bellas had been trying to had at least drawn attention to the division and had helped change it that way. There were performers like AJ and Caitlyn who were kind of doing their own thing in the ring and could kind of hold their own a little bit. And Natalya was there, as she is now. She's the same age as me, by the way. And I met her at a house show in Knoxville, and she was nice. And then, but like Charlotte coming out with Rick, and she had the robe, and like everybody had a big grand entrance, and it got plenty of time. And like I was there for that one, and it stole the show. Like that and the Shane and Undertaker. But you knew Shane and Undertaker was going to be crazy anyway, because you knew Shane was going off that cage. But this women's match, like we had never seen a women's match like that in WWE before, and they never had. I mean, they got probably 20 minutes on that, plus entrances. Like Charlotte going off the turnbuckles and stuff, doing the little twisty, spinny thing, and it was just super exciting and emotional for that one. And I just want to. I got to throw this in there. I say this every time I talk about WrestleMania 32. The announced attendance 101,763. I went with two of my friends. We were the three and 101,763. So this triple threat match, the women's triple threat match that ended the Divas title and began the women's title current lineage, that would be one of my matches. It was a great match too. It's fun to watch.
Oh yeah, the four horsewomen that made their start in NXT. Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch just did a lot for women in wrestling in terms of opening up doors that weren't there before. It's like, on the one hand, as a guy, yeah, I love, there's nothing wrong with having beautiful women on TV and whatnot. But when it comes to a professional wrestling show, believe it or not, I want to see, if they're in the ring, I want them as athletes and not, in a Playboy pillow fight match, which is a real thing, folks, And so seeing them actually take the women's division seriously and give them, characters that you can believe in and not have the catty, you're after my man type of storylines, was just
old Sunshine and Precious Jimmy Garvin type stuff.
Well, but there was still good stuff in that. Though.
It was good stuff, but that was all they were doing, and that somebody had the loaded purse, right, and things of that. Like, they were very minimized in what they could do.
Yes, mostly valets. I mean, so
and they were treated like real athletes and real stars in this match, and that was something I really appreciated about it. First time I'd seen something like that, and I was there for the first Women's Rumble too, and that was really cool and something totally different too. And it's amazing to see how far that division's come in 10 years as a fan. So. Oh
yeah, like the other day I watched the second Evolution PLE, as they call them now, on Peacock, and it was one hell of a show. And on my list, I think we will be talking about some of the ladies again at some point. Okay. But how about I go on to my next choice here?
Go ahead.
All right, my next one here is a match from Judgment Day 2000. It was an Iron Man match between Triple H and The Rock. Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, the match itself was fine because the tough thing about Iron Man matches is like they don't really start getting good until the end. It's like at the first 45 minutes, it's like you can enjoy it for what it is, but you're waiting for the last moment to the clock clicking down to zero and everything. During 2000, I think was probably a time that the WWE was on all cylinders storyline wise. So they were doing a lot of good stuff, with like the McMahon Helmsley regime storyline where McMahon and DX were, all together fighting off the good guys in the company. And just the end of the match here at the 1 minute 58 second mark, all of a sudden you have this graphic on screen with the three young girls, talking all creepy. And then at the end of their little monologue, they're like, "He's here." And then the Undertaker coming out on a Harley and just kicking everyone's ass. Yeah. Like, even today, I can put that on and just get a big old smile on my face, because that's, again, the beauty of professional wrestling. Yeah. That someone who calls himself Undertaker can come out on a Harley and it makes sense. And, that's the beauty of wrestling. And I think that was in Kentucky as well, Louisville.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right on that. I was a senior in high school then, or had just graduated, or was about to. I think that was in April or May.
A pay-per-view or two after WrestleMania 2000 that year, yeah.
The Backlash used to be in April, so this would have been probably May, because King of the Ring was in June. So, yeah, I remember that stuff really well, because I'm a huge Rock guy. I'm a huge Samoan guy. I'm wearing my Roman Reigns shirt. I wear Rock. I buy his Under Armour stuff. I buy his personal hygiene products from Target. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm a mark. I don't care. I love the Samoans. So I was heavily involved in, and I remember this. Yeah, I remember that all the time, because that kicked off American Badass Undertaker, who is just a year later with the Invasion stuff, which I think they did a pretty good job with. All things considered, I enjoyed the crap out of it when it was happening. That's all I know. So, but Undertaker, Triple H, Rock, Undertaker. These guys that was 2000 was year Stone Cold was out. So those guys and Mankind really stepped up to carry the company. It was a fun year to watch.
Indeed, and yeah, just that is another match that is on the WWE or WWE Vault YouTube channel. So definitely should check that one
They have
out.
some
But
great stuff on there, man.
oh yeah, like full pay-per-views.
Yeah.
What I'm loving on the Vault channel is that now they've been putting out these, I guess they're calling them like mixtapes or whatever, but
Yeah.
they've done 3 that I've seen so far. One on Terry Funk, one on Bret Hart, and one on Ravishing Rick Rude. And the Ravishing Rick Rude one opened up with a world title match when he was the world champion at World Class Championship. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
You're lucky we're not a video podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. But Rick Rude, before he came to the WWF, was the world champion in World Class Championship Wrestling, and apparently he had a match with Bruiser Brody.
Oh, wow. Dude, I'll have to check that out. I follow that channel. I like the mini docs they put out, like the one about the APA that's like 30 minutes, or they do like the history of, like, I watched the one on the NWO Wolfpack the other night. That was pretty entertaining. A lot of in-ring segments stuff, too, which was fun.
Lots of good stuff. But speaking of good stuff, you have another choice. What's your next match?
WrestleMania 40. Again, I was there. Rock and Roman, the Bloodline, like my 2 all-time favorites, versus Rollins, an all-time top 10 guy for me, and Cody Rhodes, who I don't really care about, but whatever. No, I don't hate the guy, but like, whatever. Anyway, it was just so over the top. It was professional wrestling the way professional wrestling is supposed to be. Just over the top, insane craziness going on, people running in, dramatic, just over the top entrances and everything. And as a huge Bloodline Samoan guy, and I was cheering for Roman during the Big Dog suffering succotash era because I don't care, that's my guy. We saw them at a house show and he dapped me and the boys up, and so like, that's our guy from now on. And I had the most fun I've ever had post-match that night at a wrestling show, having the one up in the air, just talking trash to everybody that walked by me. I was in a corner seat above one of the things where you come to the stadium, one of the entryways. And I knew it was too crowded to get out. So I was and I had 2 beers. So I was like, I'm just going to stand up here and drink these beers and let them know who the boss is. And I was like, instead of 2 sweetened people, I was like, anybody else to throw up the one, I was going, so I remember that match from more of the post stuff. And there was just that kind of came out of nowhere for that WrestleMania too. People forget, like, after Royal Rumble, people were like, what is happening here? And then,
yeah, they pivoted because initially they were trying to not have Cody, quote unquote, finish the story. They were angling for Roman versus The Rock. And
that's what I thought I was getting.
Yeah.
That's why I bought the tickets.
Well, thankfully, though,
it was a great time.
Yeah, and I'll give this to The Rock. I mean, he was in a position to where he could have said, I want that match with Roman no matter what anybody says.
Yeah.
Yet he decided, what was best for business was, for the plans to happen as they ultimately did, which was great to see. And speaking of Roman, too, I remember the era where he wasn't totally accepted by the audience. I remember I attended a show here in February of 2017 at the Moda Center, an episode of Raw, which happened to be the very first in-ring main roster match that Samoa Joe did. It was Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. And, it was weird because, like, everybody was cheering for Roman's big moves, but then immediately after they cheered, they would start booing him again.
Yeah.
So it was weird because it's like the audience liked him during that time. It's just, I think the reason they were booing is they didn't want to see him do that.
Yeah. I think there might be something to that. I've been there for a lot of the big things in his career. Like, I was there at Survivor Series when he won his first title, and then Sheamus cashed it in. Was there when he walked into Rumble 16 as the champion, the only person to ever do that, and lost it in the match. I was there when his run ended there at 40. I've been there for a lot of Roman Reigns stuff. I love Roman Reigns. That's my guy. He's awesome. What a good guy. But to say this about The Rock, I think The Rock, he's going to do what's best for business, but he's the people's champion. Okay? So, like, when you're the people's champion, you got to listen to the will of the people. And The Rock does that. He gives the people what they want. I love The Rock. He's great. I wish he was our
Like,
president.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't get worse than what we already had.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, how about I go in with my next choice here? Yeah, this is actually one that I was in the crowd for.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it was also the only time that I've been to a show and I saw a title change. It was at the Bash 2009.
Okay.
It was what I consider to be the second best WWE match of that particular year. The first one, the number one on that list would be, of course, the first Shawn Michaels Undertaker match at WrestleMania 25. But Chris Jericho, the Intercontinental Champion, facing off against Rey Mysterio in a title versus mask match.
Okay.
And yeah, Jericho came in as the champion. They'd had a feud for the past few weeks, and it was again like 12 years or so after both of their heights in the cruiserweight division at WCW, but they both were whipping out some great moves. Jericho at this time, it was when he had a few months after he had turned heel and was kind of mimicking the bad guy from I think it was the movie There Will Be Blood or something like that. He was trying to channel that cold character to where, he wasn't the flamboyant Chris Jericho, but he would just walk out mean and all that stuff. But the ending part of the match was great because Ray tried to go for a 619. Jericho grabs, Mysterio by the face, and then you see him whip something off, and he whipped off Rey Mysterio's mask. He's holding it in his hand, but then you turn and see Rey Mysterio had a second mask on the whole time, and then he was able to take down Chris Jericho and end up winning the Intercontinental Championship during that match.
Wow. Sorry, I got lost in something. Because you're talking about Jericho's his run there where he was a serious heel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have been racking my brain the whole time since you said it was that era, trying to think who he was trying to like emulate, and it was Nick Bockwinkel is what I always thought he was doing. Because I'd gone back and watched a bunch of Nick Bockwinkel stuff, and Jericho had talked about that some on an interview or something, and I really appreciated that era of Jericho. And you're right, like to see two guys 10 years later, they were the two cruiserweights really that made it. And I guess Eddie, but he really wasn't very much of a cruiserweight. So for very long. Yeah, man, was that in Portland?
No, that was in Sacramento at Arco Arena.
Okay, cool. So
yeah, the match that ended up closing the show was Triple H versus Randy Orton in a 3 Stages of Hell match.
And that's where Orton popped his shoulders out?
No, nobody got injured, thankfully, on that particular match. But
this was 09, right? Like, so this was
09, yeah.
Bald-headed breaking into his house. Orton.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Like this is the era.
Stephanie.
Yeah, for Randy Orton, I think that like this is the era to where I first said, okay, I can see what everybody is seeing in him before, because that's the weird thing about younger looking wrestlers. The older I get, it's like I can't necessarily take them seriously if they got a kid face. Like Drew McIntyre, for instance, when he first started, if you take a look at his face and compare it to what he looks like now, what he looks like now is a scary, intimidating wrestler. Whereas back in the day, it was just hi everybody.
No, he is scary and intimidating in person. He's a lot bigger than you think he is. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So listen, that was an excellent choice. That was an excellent choice. That is a pretty good match. I'm glad that you're picking stuff that I've seen. This is good. I was afraid it's going to be like John Moxley and Kenny Omega stuff, and I was going to be like, never. I know who Dean Ambrose is, but
we're not gonna. Yeah, some of the I'll put it like this. I am glad AEW is around.
Sure.
AEW, I hope for their long-term continued success. If you listen back to episode 400 of Friends Talking Nerdy, we actually spent money on a cameo to get AEW referee Aubrey Edwards to give our podcast a shout out for our 400th episode. Okay. So, I put my money where my mouth is. Yeah. I want that company to succeed. But on the flip side, I think that they are involving themselves in some stuff that doesn't appeal to the larger masses. And when it comes to like John Moxley and that spike bat that was in his back that it took them a minute to get out, like,
man, I'm just
there's
not I'm
there's
glad
an
it
audience
exists.
for that.
Yeah, there is.
It's like, yeah, there is, but you're not like, if for as liberal as I am, when my kids were younger, in terms of stuff I let them watch, that is stuff that I would say that's too much.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hope nobody gets hurt.
So real quick while we're on that, I'm with you. I want them to succeed. I want them to have a place, especially for people that like that kind of professional wrestling, because that's a specific kind. It's indie-rific or whatever, and I don't mean that as pejoratively. That's just kind of, I don't know how, it's not sports entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, I'm a sports entertainment guy. I want them to continue to have success. I'm mad at them for sending CM Punk back to WWE. I really enjoyed that run where all of his the toxic part of his fan base were over there with these other people that are talking about people that I don't care about, and that they're not over here booing baby faces at WWE shows, trying to hijack shows. I really enjoyed that run, like that post-COVID run where baby faces were getting cheered and heels were getting booed. I really, so for that piece of time alone, like that 2-year run, I'm appreciative of AEW. So, and one of my friends makes gear for them, actually. Has worked for him for a couple times. So keep paying my boy Filthy Rich Cabana. I'm here for it. So
there you go. Well, how about, I believe this is your last choice. What is your last choice here?
Last choice, Toronto Skydome, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2002. I'm 20 years old. I'm on my spring break in Canada because I had to drive 16 hours from Maryville, Tennessee, 865, so I could go watch The Rock and Hulk Hogan go 1-on-1, and it was incredible. If you've never seen a professional wrestling match, like, this one is real easy to follow, and the crowd is as hot as any crowd I've ever seen, any crowd I've ever been a part of. And we were sitting in the cheap seats up at the top, and I don't care. It was a blast. It was electric. And they didn't even do that much. You know what I mean? Like clotheslines, like lockups, push aparts, ref bumps, punches. But they had us eat. It was 2 generations. It was guys, you were in Aubrey's age, they're about 8 to 10 years older than me, and guys my age who were all rooting for The Rock. But we were all everybody there except me was rooting for Hulk Hogan that night, because I've never rooted against The Rock, and I'm not going to start now. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I slept on that match when it first came out. I do remember some of the promo for it. I wasn't happy with how they introduced the NWO into the WWE at the time,
and everybody thought it should have been Austin.
I'm glad they didn't go that route, though, because I think Austin and Hogan together, I don't think would have gelled as much as ultimately what The Rock did with Hogan. And I think. Yeah, and I think Austin too has kind of talked about it, like, during that particular time too. Like, I think he realized that with the new people coming in, the bigger names coming in, that he wasn't necessarily at that particular time going to be the number one guy. And I don't think he was quite happy with that either. So it's possible he may have even been offered that match and he said no, if I'm not mistaken. But ultimately, like I said, I initially slept on it, but once I saw it, like, everything that is beautiful about pro wrestling is in that match right there. Yeah. And also too, I think you mentioned it does show the importance of character work, because if you have a character that people are into, whether they're cheering you or booing you, then you don't really have to go out there and literally break your back to get people to have any sort of a reaction. You can do something as simple as turning your head to the left and the right, like they did to open up the match, and you got people going nuts.
So when you care about that's the big thing. Like, they didn't. That's what I was saying earlier. If you care about the character, you can go out there and do whatever. They didn't go out there and do that much. And I've seen some guys go out there. I've seen some ladder matches and stuff before, and like, and seeing Shane McMahon and Undertaker in Hell in a Cell, it's like, my God, like, be careful. Like, Hulk Hogan's, Kurt Angle or was talking about this. Hulk Hogan said this one time. He's like, "We already got their money, brother. we ain't got to work that hard." Anyway, yeah. I love that stuff. I love an electric crowd because it's when people talk about a real sports field, like that's a real sports field to me because that felt like a real sports crowd. That felt like going to a concert. It was just it was awesome. So,
Oh yeah, I agree.
What's your number? What's your last one here, brother?
My last one here is also another event that I attended live, and it happened to be the last major professional wrestling event that happened in the world before the COVID lockdown.
Okay.
It happened at NXT TakeOver Portland.
Okay.
And it was for the NXT Women's Championship. It was Bianca Belair from Knoxville, Tennessee, facing off against.
That's right.
There you Yep, facing off against Rhea Bloody Ripley.
Yeah, okay.
And that was really my first introduction to Rhea Ripley as a performer. I'd been aware of her, but didn't really take the time to really dive into, see, her matches or stuff like that, because there was a lot of content out there, folks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you hear something great. There's just a lot of stuff out there. And like, am I going to go on Tubi now and watch the Evolve show? Probably not,
No.
but even though there might be some good stuff on there, but just seeing Rhea live for the first time was just like, whoa, like there's a reason she's a star now. There's a reason why she is elevating the entire women's division now, because just her presence in the ring. Like there have been very few people that I've seen either live or on television involved in professional wrestling who have that type of just, lack of a better phrase, aura about her. Rhea Ripley is definitely one of those people, and Bianca Belair, just one hell of a performer. Like even at that time, she was still coming to the ring, swinging her hair, and everything, which was great. Ultimately, Rhea Ripley ended up winning the match, but then afterwards, in runs one Miss Charlotte Flair.
Woo.
And that was the time where I believe Charlotte had won the Royal Rumble that year and ended up facing Rhea Ripley at the first COVID WrestleMania at the Performance Center for the NXT Women's Championship. But I actually have audio of me being in the crowd when Charlotte ended up sneak attacking Rhea and accepting the challenge for WrestleMania, and that was just so cool to see live. And again, going back to what I was talking about earlier with the women's matches, just the difference in the in-ring quality of the women's matches, even then and up to today, compared to what it was like back in the days of the Fabulous Moolah and stuff like that, is just second to none. I mean, the women are doing some great things in the ring, and it's a great time to be a pro wrestling fan. Yeah. That's for sure.
Never a better time to be a pro wrestling fan. I'm glad that Bianca Belair got some love on this list. I feel bad for leaving her out. She comes back to Knoxville all the time. Like I've talked to her parents after 2 different house shows and saw them at the airport, and we talked before WrestleMania 40 last year. They're really nice people. I love Bianca Belair. I took one of my students to meet her. We did the backstage pass thing at a show, at a Knoxville house show in 24. And man, she's just a real sweetheart, and she's so athletic. She's got the best parts of Cena in her. You know what I mean? Like you want to root for somebody like that, right? And Rhea Ripley she's like part Undertaker, part Austin. Like she's got that dark goth aura that all dudes like for whatever reason. Every dude that watched a cartoon in the 80s likes. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's Evil Lynn from He-Man that started us all on it or what, but like we're down for it. And but she's also like a legitimate badass, and like she can cut a great promo and you believe her, and she's a hard ass, but she can still be funny sometimes. The stuff she did with Dom was awesome. Her accent is it really works for her and makes her sound even tougher and more mysterious, like just exotic, and she's a great Bianca and Rhea especially, I think, are the next 5 to 10 years of the women's division in WWE. They're at the forefront of it, and they're both so talented, and they're really raising the bar for what a match is. And no discredit to some of the women that came before them, things like that. Like if it wasn't for Natty and the Bellas trying out there, maybe these girls wouldn't have a chance. These performers, these women wouldn't have had a chance now. But they're really taking that opportunity and running with it. So that's cool that you got to see that. That was like the last big event. That I was supposed to go to Mania that year, actually.
Oh man,
and
yeah,
was bummed. So
yeah, I can imagine that, and I that's one of the WrestleManias I don't think I will go back and revisit just because of the fact that there were no crowds.
Man, you got to go back and watch the cinematic matches. They're awesome. Like Bray Wyatt and Cena, and
I did see that. I did see that one. That, you know, and that's presented in a different way. I mean, cinematic matches are. I'm glad we have that as a storytelling option. Now, I have not seen, what do they call that? The Last Ride,
with
Undertaker
AJ
versus AJ.
Oh my God, dude, you got to watch that one, man. That is so. That is so entertaining, man. It's like, did you ever see any of the Hardy stuff that when they were doing that stuff at the compound?
Oh, the final deletion, yeah.
It's got some of that to it, but it's that idea, but done WWE style, so it actually looks good and makes a little bit more sense. So, the Hardys were at the Comic Con in Knoxville last week, and I walked by them, or Matt was at least. And dude, I walked by Scott Steiner when I was looking for Transformers comics. Scott Steiner walked right by me, and he brushed my friend's shoulder. I was like, "Oh my God, dude, what was that like?" He said, he's still pretty big for an old man. He said it kind of hurt. So,
yeah, he's one person I would not want to mess with.
Hey, have you met a lot of wrestlers? Because I want to talk to somebody about meeting different wrestlers and stuff like that sometime.
I wish. The closest I got, I used to work with a guy at Best Buy who lives in Ohio and is the president and the play-by-play guy for Absolute Intense Wrestling, local professional wrestling organization there. So, I haven't had a chance to really talk to, a long form talk with a professional wrestler.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to at some point have one on the show, even someone in the indies, that would love to talk.
I can arrange that. I can arrange that for you for real. I've got a buddy who is a gear maker, and who also wrestled locally and promoted shows and ran shows and booked shows for 5 or 10 years when we're in our 20s and early 30s. I got another guy who, I know several. I'll put you on somebody. I can do that.
Well, sounds good, yeah. But speaking of that, now that we're done with our list, we were talking before we recorded here. You actually have been involved in the world of professional wrestling in Tennessee.
Yeah, I have. Just local stuff over the years with some of the aforementioned friends. One of my friends, his gimmick was Edward Idol, PhD. Because he was one of the only boys that had like been to college and was working or whatever. And so everybody's like, "Oh, old doctor over here, old Dr. Idol." And so he just kind of ran with it. And I was his assistant, and I was his graduate assistant is what I was. And so I would come and take notes during his matches, and I'd give him scouting reports on stuff, but really I'd write shh and be quiet on Post-it notes and hand them to little kids at ringside so they'd start booing him. And there's some crazy people in East Tennessee and at local wrestling shows, but I think almost every single person parent that saw me give the shh and be quiet stuff to their kids got it and appreciated what we were doing. So
nice.
Did some stuff like that. Did a lot of commentary for all kinds of different stuff. A lot of ring announcing.
What was the name of the organization?
Several different ones. Just it's one of those things of who owns it this week. So what's the name of it is this week? One of them was Severe Attitude Wrestling. That was right here in Maryville. I have several Saw DVDs. We did Great American Wrestling on the local Fox 43 affiliate out here. It was on Saturday mornings there for a while, and then it got moved. We got moved to like 2 a.m. But I didn't care because I was staying up to watch myself. They would tape a month's worth at once. So like one Friday a month, I was up here at used to be ITT Tech out here in Fountain City. It's really just about a mile from my girlfriend's house now. I pass by it all the time. It's wild. But we would we would take 4 episodes at once, and we would do backstage segments, and we would bring in people like Ricky Morton came in and worked a lot of shows for us. His son Kerry Morton came in, so I've got a couple other people like that, some regional guys. Shane Williams, shout out my boy Shane. One of the dudes ended up in AEW. One of the guys ended up in Chikara before it floundered, and he went to go do something else. I can't remember the names, but it's other dudes like Cadillac Cowboy and stuff too. So,
Gotcha.
It was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
I can imagine. That's one little regret on my part not getting involved. I mean, because
you can now, man. Like, there's always.
It's not like I would ever have dreamed of like being an actual performer in the ring, but for me, like I as someone who grew up watching Bobby Heenan, it'd be great to be like a manager or, do like the old. You may be more familiar with Nick Patrick doing it, but I remember the '80s referee Danny Davis in the WWF when he became Dangerous Danny Davis, be it by becoming a bad referee and giving the matches to the bad guys when he shouldn't have, and then becoming a it's just fun. It would be cool to try that sometime, even if for just one time.
Dude, reffing is something people always need people to show up and be a ref. Number one, but number two, I learned I refed maybe 2 shows, but the first night I did it, my arm was like purple right here from here to here, slapping the mat the whole night. Like,
oh man.
And when you're just when you're just doing the counts or whatever, or like, hey, break that hold, and no one's interacting with you, it's fine. It's easy. You've seen it done on TV. You can do it in your sleep, right? But when somebody turns around and like pops off to you, like sometimes like you're in that moment and you want to pop back, and other times it's like, oh my God, this dude, like, this guy's kind of unstable. Like, I've seen this guy out. I've drank beer with this guy after the show, and I know how unstable he is. He's going to say he's working, but I don't know if that's true. So I'm just going to back down.
Yeah, you don't want him delivering some potatoes.
No.
Well, anyway, we are going to wrap things. Yeah, definitely was. It definitely was. And we'll, since I know how much Aubrey loves professional wrestling, we'll definitely have to do it again here at some point.
Oh, for sure, dude. I'm about it. Yeah, just anything about it. I'm all about it. I'll get on there and find you some people, man. I'll talk to my boys.
Sounds good.
So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we'll definitely arrange some time here to talk about professional wrestling, whether it be with you or some of your wrestling associates. But we thank you all for listening at home. Each Monday, we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
Hey, real quick. It's Monday night. Watch Raw on Netflix. And the one thing everybody should do every day is acknowledge your tribal chief. Thanks for having me on. I had a great time. We'll see you later.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
on YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.